Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
The Haunting of Creech Manor is an expansion for Final Girl. You will need the Final Girl core set in order to play this. Now, I'm going to assume that you know how to play Final Girl a little bit, and I'm going to kind of go through what are the changes with this one. So there's a few major changes you're going to have. You're going to have the locations. You're going to have the manor, and it's kind of set up, spread out. It's kind of hard to move around. I find moving around in this game kind of difficult to do in the first place. But you're going to have some windows you can jump out of. You're going to have some one-way rooms, and you're really going to have to go from floor to floor up and down these stairs. This means that movement is heavily restricted, but it is kind of neat because there's some item cards that can do rope bridges and get you up through those one-way locations that maybe the bad guys can't get through. And that's kind of neat. I like the idea of jumping out the window, and you can take shortcuts across the yard, which is faster than going through the house, which is, But, you might jump out the window and run across, and that is kind of neat. Otherwise, I don't find a huge difference in the locations. It's fine. You do have two of the search locations that are very close together and one that's really far apart. And we'll discuss that a little bit in just a couple minutes. The other thing you're going to have is the Poltergeist. And this is going to be the main bad guy in this one. She's going to react very differently than the other bad guys in that she cannot take damage. So the win condition is going to be a little different because you're not going to be able to defeat her. You're going to have to win by other means, which I'll get into in a few minutes. So all of the attack cards are going to be fodder. They're going to be cards you can discard. Now, there are some minion cards that will come up in the terror deck and the event deck that will have some fights, but they're few and far between. This is not a combat-heavy one because the bad guy, there is no killing it. Although the bad guy, the Poltergeist, can definitely attack you. Now, as for some interesting things going on, there's some item cards that are kind of cool, like the paddock. I can lock the door, but the Poltergeist can later on just teleport next to you, so it can make that not useful. There are some weapons, but there's not a lot of killing in it, so maybe those will be useful in another set. The main issue I'm going to have is the difficulty of this. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit because it's going to play into the win condition of it. So the win condition is different. You don't have to kill the big bad guy. You have to save the little girl, Carolyn, and get out. That can be very easy. I had a game one time where the event was the helicopter, so I got the helicopter on the roof. I happened to start in the roof. I did a double search. I was able to find it right off the bat, and I just walked out. The bad guy really didn't have time to react or do anything. Super simple. The majority of the time, Carolyn is hidden, and you don't know which deck that she's in. There's three, and two of them are close together, the other one is really far apart. So if you search these two first, which makes the most sense based on where your starting location is because they're close, you're 2/3 of the way through the deck, and you're really hosed if she's on the other side. And that can make the game difficult or nearly impossible to win. It can make it extremely hard. But it's not hard as in what you're doing is any harder, or you made bad decisions or good decisions. It's just a matter of where she is randomly located. If certain circumstances happen, helicopter's out, you get her in the first search, you start in the attic, it's going to be a very, very easy romp for you. If she's down in this lower location, you start in the attic, you go there, and you go to the closet, and you got to go right all the way down there, it is going to be very hard for you. Now, I've seen this mechanism done like in Zombie Side Last Night on Earth before, where you're just searching for something, and searching is the main thing. And in this one, you got to search, and you got to search quick, because that's the game condition. Nothing else is really going to matter all that much. In this one, I don't go after the victims very much. I don't try to help people out. I got to search because it might take everything I have to get all the way down to where she's at. And you don't even start with any search cards in your hand, so you kind of churn things through a little bit, maybe just sit there as you're waiting for those search cards to come up, and you got to make sure you maximize them. Even if it's discarding cards, which will usually be your attack cards, maybe your walk cards if you need to stay there for a while to kind of shift through that to see what's in the deck. But this can kind of give you an uneasy experience as you're going through. This one can definitely be the hardest. It can also be the easiest. It's very uneven in what you're going to get. With that said, I do like it. I do like to mix and match this one up a little bit. It isn't something I would tell you to start with. This is not one of the expansions I would say start with. It's something very different. But I would say add this one in if you're looking for a change of pace. This one does something very different than the other ones in the first set of expansions. But it's going to be a very different experience, but an uneven one. So for my taste, it's a keeper. I do like it, but it isn't one of my favorite ones. For me, it's going to be a keeper, but just barely, probably the last one that I would purchase.